Being shy has detrimental consequences in your career. Shyness can mean missing out on that amazing job opportunity because you didn't speak to that person at an event. It can mean coming across as lacking confidence in an interview, and it can mean missing out on that promotion because the powers that be haven't gotten to know you well enough, despite your work product being stellar. In this video, you'll learn how to fake confidence in the short term and then actually rid yourself of shyness in the long term. This will absolutely change the trajectory of your career. And stay to the end because you'll hear some great questions to ask if you get stuck in any sort of professional conversation and you're feeling a bit awkward. If you're new here, I'm Madeline Mann. I am a human resources leader and job search strategist who turns job seekers into job shoppers. You may have seen me in these places. Be sure to subscribe to be reminded to do something good for your career. I am so excited to be joined today with Courtney Copelin, one of the coaches in our job search coaching program. I have to acknowledge, Courtney, that the world is in this not so secret love affair with extroversion, and introversion and shyness is really something that is underappreciated and can often lead to an unbalanced team. So unfortunately, we have to kind of learn how to be more outgoing, how to be less shy. Where does shyness actually come from, would you say?
So shyness is really rooted in fear, and that can look like a lot of things. Maybe it's, I'm fearful that I won't achieve results. I'm fearful that I won't succeed. I'm fearful that someone else is going to judge me. I'm fearful that I'm judging myself.
I know that shyness for me in my life has been very deeply rooted in fear. I think about back when I was in high school. I always wanted to be in the school play, but I wouldn't audition because I said, no, I'm not going to audition. That's too scary. Until I actually did a personal development course in high school where I realized that this was a limiting thought, that if I auditioned and didn't land the role, it would be the same as if I never auditioned at all. And that unlocked something for me of I don't need to live my life in this fear of being rejected or making a fool of myself. I can put myself out there, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But then we're not cut off from these amazing opportunities. And so let's go a little bit deeper here. What are some of the ways that we can start to build ourselves up to hopefully overcome some shyness?
Yeah, I would say the first tip is starting with those baby steps. So what if I told you that you have an opportunity almost every day to overcome shyness? When you order a coffee, when you go to the grocery store, or if you love Postmates, talking to your delivery man or woman, those are all great opportunities to overcome shyness. What does that look like? Striking up a conversation with them, just asking, how's your day going? Initiating questions about their life. And the purpose of this is really to get you used to speaking to strangers, talking to people that you may not know. And when you ask that question, the door is open. There's uncertainty there. But the power in that is when you show up to an interview or if you're networking, those are all conversations with strangers and people you're meeting for the first time. So those little exposures on a day-to-day will actually prepare you to really trust yourself in those moments.
We get this question. We got that question the other day in the coaching program where someone said, Madeline, how are you so comfortable talking to us as clients, talking to the world? It's because I've put in the reps. You have to practice.
Yeah.
And that's why, you can watch this video all you want, but if you're not going out there and practicing in low stakes environment, that's what I love about what Courtney said, is the low stakes. And so go practice there. And then when it gets to be a bit higher stakes, professional situations, interviews, that's when you're able to then put those practices into play. So what would be another way that you've helped to kind of build up and overcome shyness?
So the second tip I would say is to initiate with bravery. This means to just do it scared. Rip that Band-Aid off and dive in. I'll be honest, it doesn't feel great. It's scary. It's so scary. I've been there. I know Madeline's been there, but you just have to trust yourself and dive. So what could this look like for you? Sending that first email, picking up the phone and calling, or my personal favorite is showing up in person.
I've read a lot of studies about what comes first, confidence or courage. And really what it is that the people who are very confident, it's because they've pushed through the scariness. They've had the courage to put themselves out there. They've had the courage to put themselves in these scary job interviews or these intimidating network situations, and they do it scared, and that's how the confidence develops. So if you're thinking, I'm not a confident person right now, the goal is just jump in the deep end and you will learn to swim. And I know that's a terrible, terrible feeling, but it truly makes all of the difference.
It really does.
Courtney, what would be your third tip on helping us to break out of our shyness?
Third tip, think like a CEO. I say this for any person that you're speaking to. I just say think like a CEO because a lot of our clients ask me, how do I overcome the fear of speaking to a CEO in an interview? And so when you're speaking to someone, whether it's in a networking conversation or in an interview, they are a person just like you. Yes, they might have that title, but just like you, they go on walks with their family. They go to the movies. They have hobbies and friends. When you're speaking to them, just remember, they're not all that different. I actually asked a client, how do you feel speaking to Madeline in Stand Up Job Search? You speak to her every day. We get on live calls. How do you feel? And she said, I was intimidated at first, but it's fine. And she's looking at me like, Courtney, why is this relevant? And I said, well, Madeline's a CEO. And she said, whoa, I hadn't considered that. And so now she has this perspective when she's speaking to a CEO or someone in a director level position, hiring manager, whoever, in an interview, she now has this visual. I do this every day in Stand Up Job Search. I can talk to someone else who's also a CEO.
I love that so much. That is really the job shopper mentality that we coach on is when you're a job shopper, you see yourself as equals with the people you're talking to. You see yourself as, this is my future colleague. Like, this is fun. This is an enjoyable experience. Let's work together on this. So if you are working towards becoming a job shopper, first of all, watching this video is a great first step, but we also have a way more in-depth workshop and webinar that you can go ahead and watch. It's totally free. I'll link that below. Let's move on to the next tip. What else do you have for us on how to overcome the shyness?
So the fourth tip is to practice in the mirror. Don't laugh. I know it sounds silly, but I promise you it works. And the reason it works is because you'll get used to hearing your own voice, your gestures. I use my hands a lot, which I learned talking in the mirror, and you'll just get comfortable with yourself. So when you're in the moment, let's say I'm interviewing with Madeline right now, I start using my hands. If I don't know that about myself, I'm gonna get in my head and start thinking about my hands and not about what I'm saying. And it's gonna throw me off. Practice those reps like Madeline mentioned earlier. This is another way to do it.
And I use my hands a lot. You all have told me in the comments. I appreciate it. Our clients, they will submit mock interview videos.
Yes.
And we get to watch them and give them feedback. And so that's an even more technologically advanced version of this, of mirror videos. And that is really incredible to build the self-awareness and build that confidence, because when you see those different things, you can start to hone in and realize also that was pretty good the way I said that. That was actually pretty smooth. And so that's a really great tip. I love that. Now, Courtney, a good bit of overcoming shyness has a little bit of fake it until you make it type aspect, which essentially means, okay, how do we show up in these professional situations or in these job interviews in a way that appears confident so that we can live up to that, so we can push past shyness and really appear to be confident and eventually then do become confident? What would be some tips that we can start appearing that way?
Yeah, I love this question. So first I would say focus on your message and not the messenger. You just practice in the mirror and did your mock interview so you know what you sound like. Focus on that tone and your body language in that present moment. So you know, hey, I know what I sound like, I know what I'm saying, and I feel good about it.
I would say that this is so true because we have so many clients who get discouraged in their job interviews because they're not getting energy from the interviewer. What I would say is if you're waiting for, when you're doing a presentation at work or when you're in an interview, if you're waiting for that energy, it's going to often often be detrimental. I was once in a job interview where the whole time the interviewer was very tight-lipped and just kind of nodded, and I got zero energy from him. But then a couple hours later, I got a call from the recruiter saying he loved me, he thought it was amazing, they wanted to speed me ahead to the final round, and he gave me no indication. But had I played off of his energy, that likely would have not been the outcome. So exactly, focus on yourself, bring the noise, bring the energy, and that can really change the game. What else would you say is another way to show up as more confident to others?
So next, I would say focus on your eye contact. I know that eye contact can feel a bit awkward, but here is a trick. You can stare at someone's forehead or the rims of their glasses, and it will appear as if you're looking into their eyes without actually staring into their eyes. Something you could do to practice this is to, again, stand in front of the mirror, set a timer, stare at yourself in the mirror for a couple minutes, just so you can get used to looking in one direction. And I found that super, super helpful. This is a way to also help you stay present in that moment.
I love that. And yeah, I mean, I think for some of us, it's really hard to make eye contact. It can be a bit ableist to say, oh, make eye contact. It's like, no, that's not really how I'm built. But I'm really glad you brought it up because so many hiring managers have made comments about this. Oh, they're not making eye contact. Oh, they seem that they're lying or they're not as engaged in the conversation, whatever it is. So I love this tip. Or even I'll stare at the camera. They won't even be on the screen. Like sometimes I don't even want to look at the person who I'm talking to on the video, but I'm staring at the camera. I'm not even looking at them, but it seems like I'm making eye contact with them. So again, it's a kind of avoiding this, but still making it really great, meaningful connection.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what else would you say would help to increase our confidence or appear as more confident?
So third tip is to disarm with a connection point. I love this tip because it really breaks the ice in the moment between yourself and another person. So for example, let's say that this person you're speaking to went fishing over the weekend. You could ask them, hey, I saw that you went fishing over the weekend with your family. That's something that I did growing up with my dad too. Is this something that you do regularly? Is this a new hobby? And it just eases into the conversation and allows the other person to talk about themselves too. And hopefully the conversation will also be a bit more personable.
Exactly. I think that we don't have to keep professional and personal completely separate.
Yeah.
And that's a nice way to build rapport. Okay, Courtney, if you were to give your best tip, because you have done an amazing job in your life overcoming shyness and pushing through, what would you say is the number one thing that helped you to get there?
Madeline, I love that question and I love to talk about this. The answer is being inquisitive and be curious about the other person. I love asking questions about people's lives and their stories, and it's coming from a place of learning. I am curious and I want to know more about them. So in conversation, I typically like to tailor my questions to that specific person so it feels very genuine and very personable. Now, I know you might be saying, Courtney, I don't know who this person is. And that's totally fair. So here are two go-to questions that I like to use. In networking, I love to ask people, why did you choose this career path? And I love that question because it opens the door for tons of follow-up conversation. And the question for an interview is, what do you love about your job? Because this sets the tone of positivity as well.
I love this so much. And I would say that this is probably the thing that's helped me also the most in overcoming shyness. I hated going into, especially like professional networking situations, feeling like I had to impress people. And so I stopped doing that. I just started asking a bunch of questions. My goal was, I'm going to speak the least, and I'm going to make sure that I'm making the other person feel very interesting. And so that's so super great is you come across less shy, but you also do way less work in the conversation. So Courtney and I are two people who are constantly putting ourselves out there, constantly meeting people, and we're overcoming shyness every single day. And so I hope that from two formerly, though still sometimes shy people, we hope that you also take these tips and run with them. And Courtney, I want to thank you so much for being here today, and I'm going to send you away with a Wi-Fi high five.